All right, I'd like to call to order the. I didn't really plan on listening to myself all meeting. Give us a moment.
Mute.
Yeah? You guys, it's going to be such a great meeting. You get to hear me twice. You're very lucky this evening. You got it? All right, cool. All right, so we're going to go ahead and call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for Thursday, September 1st for 2022. If everybody would please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. No, you're good.
Yeah.
All right, and Michelle, would you please call a roll?
Member Vandermeer.
Yes, here.
Member Hubbard. Here. Member Garza.
Here.
Member Peters.
Here.
Member Estrada.
Here.
Vice Chairman Benedict.
Here.
Chairman Miller.
Here, I think. All right, next up, approval of the minutes. So we have minutes from both July and August. If we remember from last meeting, we were having some difficulties, but we've got them out. They were sent out and included in your packets.
Hey,
And
Robert,
so,
we missed changes to the agenda. Did you do changes to the agenda?
no, I just marked it off. Changes to the agenda.
There are none.
Oh, good. I was just thinking into the future. I'd already marked that one was cleared, but I'll go back to my spiel about minutes. And so if so, I would like a motion either signifying both meetings or two separate motions, either, just as long as they're both noted.
I'll make a motion that we approve items D1 and D2, the minutes of July 21st and the minutes of August 4th.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Next up, consent agenda. Can't combine those two words. The consent agenda is considered routine matters that do not require a public hearing, and anybody from the public, commission, and/or staff has the ability to pull an item from the consent agenda, but they're able to be approved with one motion and vote, roll call vote. And so at this time, I will open it up in case anybody would like to have a item removed from the consent agenda. Speak now. Seeing and hearing nobody, I will bring this to the commission.
Move to approve the consent agenda. Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none. Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Member Vanderhayden.
Aye.
Member Hubbard.
Yes.
Member Garza.
Aye.
Member Peters.
Aye.
Member Estrada.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Benedict.
Aye.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. All right. Moving on to new business. And so just as a rundown, so everybody understands how the meetings will, or the hearings will operate, the staff will get the opportunity to present each agenda item. Once they're done with their presentation, the commission will get the opportunity to ask any questions, clarification of that presentation. Once that's complete, we will invite the applicant and/or their representative to come forward. That was exciting. We're having a whole lot of fun with microphones here this evening, sorry. But then we'll get the opportunity to, the applicant and/or their representative get the opportunity to come add anything, give any additional clarification, present any additional information that they feel they would like to present. Once that's complete, we will open it up to the public. So if you're here from the public, you will get an opportunity to speak. You've got 3 minutes. If you have specific questions, we will take note of those questions. So once the public portion is complete, we can bring up the appropriate party, whether that be staff and/or the applicant, so that way we're not eating up your 3 minutes in regards to a back and forth, and that way we can get everything onto the record for the minutes. So with that, we will start off with the first agenda item under new business, public hearing to consider forwarding a recommendation of approval to the City Council request by Urban Endeavors for zone change DSA-22-00098.
All right, good evening, Commissioners. The first two requests we're going to see are going to be very similar in nature, and you'll be very familiar with them just through the general plan process that we've gone through so far. So this is going to be the first of a series of zone changes that's going to be related to the general plan hearings that we've already conducted. With that being said, Urban Endeavors is requesting a zone change from urban ranch to general industrial for approximately 150 acres of land. It's generally located at the southwest corner of Gila Bend Highway and Ethington Road. The site is requested to be rezoned to accommodate for potential industrial prospects. The proposed site is currently processing the general plan as amendment to be placed within the manufacturing and industry land use category. There's also the 320 acres just to the north of this site, also processing similar applications. This request, along with the other, will contribute to the expansion of the industrial corridor for the city. Due to the site being located on Gila Bend Highway, which is considered to be a main entry point into the city, staff will be asking that the zone change have some certain conditions to mitigate any potential adverse impacts for the image of the city. Those conditions will include architectural standards and limitations to certain uses within that zone district on that site. Additionally, staff will evaluate any proposed development at the site at the time of major site plan submittal to see if there's any other mitigating factors that we need to include. With that being said, here's an overview of the general plan. It's going into manufacturing and industry. You can see the three other sites that are being processed into that manufacturing and industry category. This is the existing zoning, urban ranch. Proposed zoning is going into I-2, general industrial. In looking at the review criteria, we make sure that it's in conformance with the general plan. We've covered a lot of this in the general plan hearings already, so the main one I want to concentrate on tonight is that a rezoning conforms to the general plan if it proposes land uses, densities, or intensities within the range of identified uses. The requested zoning of I-2 is appropriate in the manufacturing and industry land use category. In regards to notification, we met or exceeded all city requirements. We did not receive any comments in regards to this request. So in conclusion, staff recommends the commission forward a recommendation of approval to City Council of the zone change request from urban ranch to general industrial to City Council with the following conditions. The first one is that the aesthetic elevations and architectural standards, building exteriors facing Gila Bend Highway shall be designed to include architectural diversity and interest. To accomplish this, a building should incorporate some, if not all, of the following: plane changes, elevation changes, architectural embellishments and detailing, accentuated lighting, and color variations. Additionally, all outdoor storage shall be screened by a decorative masonry block wall matching and/or complementing the principal architecture of the site. Our second condition is uses within a depth of 600 feet from the property line abutting Gila Bend Highway shall be limited to permitted I-2 uses and no conditional uses, with the exception of convenience store fuel stations with or without car washes. So we're limiting some of the uses that are happening along that main frontage of Gila Bend Highway. The third one is just our standard right-of-way dedication request. And then the fourth one is that this zone change not be approved unless the general plan amendment to the manufacturing industry category is approved by City Council at the October 17th hearing. and I'd happy to take any questions.
Questions for staff? No questions for staff? All right, at this time then, would the applicant and/or their representative like to come forward? Please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. My name is Greg Davis with iPlan Consulting. Address is 3317 South Higley Road in the town of Gilbert. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. This is, I think, the third time now we've been in front of you, and we still don't have anything to add, but we'd be glad to answer any questions that you have. We have reviewed the stipulations and are comfortable moving forward with those. So any questions you have, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions for the applicant? No? All right.
All right.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming down, yeah. All right, then at this time, I would open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Seeing nobody, I will close the public portion and bring it back to the commission.
Mr. Chairman,
Member Peters.
I would like to make a recommendation of the commission to forward a recommendation of approval to City Council of the zone change request DSA-22-00098 from Urban Ranch to General Industrial, I-2, to the City Council with the following conditions that were laid out by the staff.
I'll second that motion.
So I have a motion and a second to forward a recommendation of approval. Any discussion? Hearing none. Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Member Vanderhaden?
Aye.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Garza?
Aye.
Member Peter?
Aye.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Vice Chair Benedict?
Yes.
Chairman Miller?
Yes. All right. Next up, we have a public hearing to consider forwarding a recommendation of approval to City Council for a request by Hillgart Wilson for a zone change DSA-22-00120.
So as mentioned previously, this is going to be a very similar request, so we'll cover it pretty quickly. Hillgart Wilson's requesting a zone change from urban ranch to general industrial for approximately 324 acres of land, generally located north of Gila Bend Highway between Bianco Road and Ethington Road. You can see it highlighted on your screen. Again, we've covered quite a bit of this. The proposed site's currently going through the general plan amendment. It will contribute to the expansion of the industrial corridor, and then we'll have similar conditions placed on it as the previous presentation. You can see the site located here just north of the first site we discussed, 324 acres, heading into the manufacturing industry category. The zoning's going from urban ranch to I-2, similar to the previous request. Again, all the review criteria is exactly similar to the previous request. In regards to notification, we met or exceeded all requirements and did not receive any comments regarding this request. In conclusion, staff recommends the commission forward a recommendation of approval to City Council of the zone change request from urban ranch to general industrial to City Council with the following conditions. Again, the conditions are exactly the same as the previous. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Do we have any questions for staff? Okay. This time then, would the applicant and/or their representative like to speak? Thank you for being here this evening.
Good evening, Chairman and Commission members. Cindy Paddock, Hillgart Wilson, 2141 East Highland Avenue, Phoenix, Arizona. I think Joe did a good job summary. Third time we've appeared before you, similar to Greg ahead of us. No new changes, no information. We have no objections to the staff report. Staff's been great to work with, and we look forward to the hearing in October.
All right. Any questions for the applicant? No? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I would open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Seeing nobody, I will close the public portion and bring it back to the commission.
Mr. Chairman, I must have keep going with this.
There you go. It's all yours.
I would like to make a motion that the commission forward a recommendation of approval of the city council of a request by Hillgart Wilson for a zone change DSA-22-00120 from urban ranch to general industrial located at Gila Bend Highway between Bianco Road and Effington Road, with the recommendations as listed by the staff.
I'll second.
All right, so I have a motion and a second to recommend, to forward a recommendation of approval. Any discussion? Hearing none, Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Member Vanderhayden,
Yes.
Member Hubbard,
Yes.
Member Garza,
Aye.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Member Estrada,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Benedict,
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. All right, next up. Public hearing and consider forwarding a recommendation of approval to the city council of a request by Peter Holden for a zone change DSA-22-00027.
Again, this is going to be a project you're familiar with due to the general plan request. They're actually going from neighborhoods to community corridor for this site, and this is the accompanying zone change. So Peter Holden's requesting a zone change from single-family residential to mobile home residential for approximately 37 acres of land, generally located at the southeast corner of Thornton and Courtson. You can see it highlighted on your screen. The site does not currently have certificate of assured water supply and is not able to subdivide to allow for individual lots for single-family residential development. That's what's prompting this request from R1 single-family residential to R4. The intent of this zone change is to create a manufactured home park and add to the corridor of existing manufactured home parks in that area. You can see those highlighted in brown on your screen. In regards to the general plan, currently neighborhoods, but it's processing the request into the community corridor land use category. The existing zoning's R1, proposed zoning is R4. The R4 zoning is allowed in both the neighborhoods category and the community corridor category. In regards to the review criteria, again, we look to make sure that it's in conformance with the general plan. All have been covered in your staff report. We'll just concentrate on the top one, and that's the action is consistent with the city's general plan, including the goals and policies. CC1 in our general plan goal is transition community corridor areas to become more pedestrian and bicycle friendly. As a condition of record, the city is requesting the applicant provide a 50-foot wide trail connecting from the southeast portion of their site to the northwest corner to extend a trail corridor in the area. And you can see that highlighted on your screen where that trail potentially could go. They just need to take it from that far southeast corner to the southwest corner, so they could propose a different alignment, but we think this is probably where they'll end up. In regards to notification, we met or exceeded all requirements. We did receive 2 responses today and maybe yesterday by email, and the principal concerns were Thornton Road traffic and then too much residential growth in the city. We did provide a handout to all the commissioners this evening of those comments we received for your review. In conclusion, staff recommends the commission forward a recommendation of approval to City Council of the zone change request from single-family residential to mobile home residential to City Council with the following conditions. Again, the first one is the 50-foot trail corridor through the site, and the second one is our standard right-of-way condition.
Questions for staff? Do you have any questions for staff?
She was mentioning the condition, I'm missing the condition of the general plan being approved, but R4 zoning's allowed in both neighborhoods and community corridors, so I did not make that a condition of this recommendation.
Okay.
No questions.
All right. Well, then, at this time, would the applicant and/or their representative like to come forward?
Good evening, and thank you for hearing this case. I'm Kevin McDougall, the engineer for the applicant. I live in 4624 East Maryland Road, Phoenix, Arizona. I just want to say thank you all for being here and volunteering your time to hear this case. Joe, the presentation was spot on, and I don't have much to add to that other than thank you. Any questions for me?
Questions for the applicant?
No.
No?
If the public has any further questions, I can come back.
Okay.
If you wish.
Well, thank you for being here this evening. We appreciate it. So then, at this time, I will open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Yeah, can you, just need you to come forward so it's on the record. I know. But you gotta come forward to the mic. I need your name and your address, and then we'll hopefully get everything answered.
My name's Nancy Black, and my address is 914 West Diamond Rim Drive. We're located just to the south of the proposed area there, but you mentioned that there would be a 50-foot easement like around the housing area, but nothing for that south wall. Is there a reason why that wouldn't be included?
So.
So would and also would the buildings
Yeah,
come
so.
directly
Yep.
to the
So the
fence?
50-foot is a part of our trails system
Mm-hmm.
that was agreed upon for that lot. So they could take it along your property, or they could go the other direction. We don't dictate how they get through there, but they do have to designate a 50-foot wide
Which
trail
and
through
I
the
think,
park from one end to the other. What's that?
I do believe that and I'm sorry, I get confused on my directions, but I believe it's the east side that there's like a 50-foot trail there currently.
Yeah, and you can pull up I think you have a slide on that one. And I'll let
Oh, yeah.
staff will probably
And
be
this
able to
would
better
be
speak
a
to this.
family community, correct?
It's yet to be determined exactly what it is, but it is,
Okay.
it is open for all ages right now. There's no restriction on the age on this is a zone change right now. At time of major site plan, we will look at additional things,
Okay.
but there are built-in setbacks similar to the property to the south that are imposed with the zoning. So no building is going to be right up against the property line. There's a minimum 10-foot setback in the R4 zone district.
10 foot. Okay, that was what I mainly had a question about.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, anybody else like to speak to this?
Can you
Yes.
step up to the podium?
Yep.
How to go about this, so please forgive ignorance. My name is Helen, my last name is Leastman, I live at Desert Sky Ranch. Housing development that's in question next to the rest of this. I have a little bit of a question, I did write an email, and I want to thank Michelle that answered me so kindly. I'm concerned about the traffic's ridiculous for us. It was a wonderful place to come to retire. I know we have to make changes and things do change, but is it progress? Because we've had a wonderful community where everybody pretty much knows everybody. Now two more subdivisions from Sundance have come in, which have added to the traffic. I'm sure Lucid and all these things do. Make Lucid build up by Lucid, would you? No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, the traffic is terrible, and most of those are 55. We are not designated that, and we do have a few children. We have no problem. But it's just awful for the traffic. And my problem is there's no water guarantee, is there, for us to keep building, building, building? I just have very many questions that are probably not what you want to hear tonight. The traffic thing is really what bothers me. I waited for 12 cars to come out of my complex today. And we also have that horrible curve. Have any of you driven down Thornton Road and seen our 25-mile-an-hour curve that tractor trailers are not supposed to be on, but they do? There's no enforcement of that. And that's very dangerous. That's all I had to say. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And I don't know, Joe or Dwayne, I know we've talked about that road many a times as all these developments have come through. If anybody wants to touch base on.
I'll defer to Dwayne.
Well, why is Dwayne? Hey, Dwayne, we're so glad you could be here this evening. Thank you for joining us.
So I knew this question was coming, so.
Yeah.
Of course, this is just a zone change, so.
Right.
When we actually have something going in there, we'll do a traffic impact analysis and look at how that would all work. You know, we don't always allow everything to go in. In fact, we just denied some developments earlier today that the traffic wasn't going to work. So we take a close look at that. We're also doing some work further south on Thornton and Cottonwood, hopefully to make some of the people that go up Thornton and keep going straight instead of turning right at Cottonwood, we're going to make that all easier, the intersection of Cottonwood and Pinell to work easier. So we're working on the issue.
Thank you for that insight. We appreciate it. So, ultimately, I don't know if you guys got that right. So traffic impact analysis, right now, we're just talking about the zone change. So once they get closer to development, there'll be a lot that gets looked into actual traffic flows, what it'll generate, and what they may be required to do as far as street improvements to hopefully alleviate some of that. Right now, since it's vacant land, it's just, there's no improvements that anybody has to make to alleviate some of that traffic. So hopefully some of those things will come about during development. Yeah.
We are a modular home community, but we are an owned modular home. We own our property, we own our lots, the others are all rentals. This is not far enough in its planning to know what it would be, is that true?
Yeah, we don't know
Okay,
yet at
that's
this
all
time.
I needed to know.
Okay, yep.
Thank you.
We do know that
Oh.
it won't be able to subdivide.
Yeah, so it won't
will
be
not be
individually owned
It will be a leased park if developed.
lots.
Right.
It may be rented
In
lots,
the
or it
current.
may be rented everything. We don't know that part yet. So. All right, so with that, anybody else from the public like to speak? Hang on, I'll call you back up once the public's done, hang on. Unless you're coming up as a public member. Okay. Anybody else from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Yes.
My name is Sharon Beatty, and I live right behind that field there. And one thing you say mobile home, and then you say manufactured. There is a difference. Do you know if they're going to be mobiles or manufactured homes?
I'm gonna let the applicant was chomping at the bit to get back up to the podium, so I'm gonna defer to him when he comes back up, so hopefully we'll answer that question.
Okay, because I just wondered,
Okay,
and you said you're not sure if there's going to be a buffer zone between, my property doesn't back up to that wall. I'm across the street from that wall, but there is a difference. Of course, you said you haven't decided if it's a 55 plus yet or a family thing yet. So, and a lot of the traffic we get now is from all the businesses on the other side of Cottonwood and Thornton. We get a lot of traffic when they get off work.
yeah,
But where else can they go? They're Cottonwood, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't think that can be stopped. And this probably wouldn't have an exit on Thornton, I would think. It would probably exit on Courtson.
we don't know at this time, that would be it during major site plan development, that would be discussed.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I can do a quick clarification on the manufactured home. Our zone district, when created in 1987, is R4 mobile home. It's a term that's used as our zone district. The intent of the applicant is to make it a manufactured home park, which is essentially a permitted use in the R4 mobile home zone district.
Is it more of an evolution of the definition from, yeah. So, apologize for the confusion between I guess a mobile and a manufactured, just because of our code.
There is a difference.
I understand, but at the time that it was originally adopted,
No, I mean,
There
there is a
wasn't.
difference between, there is a difference between a mobile home and a manufactured.
but there wasn't at the time of the adoption
In
of this back in.
1972.
Yeah, I know that. I'm
That's
just
what we're saying.
I'm just, if
Yes.
she's wanting to know, it's just
All right, so, anybody else from the public?
nothing big.
No? Applicant, come on up here.
Thank you.
Spread some knowledge on us.
I just want to address the transportation issue, and I believe this is a major collector, which is 110-foot wide right-of-way on both streets, Thornton and Corston, and our project is responsible for half-street improvements. I think Corston's already got the other side of their roadway done for the most part. I would anticipate it would probably take access off of both roads, because Fire has 2 points of ingress, egress. There'll probably be one maybe halfway through the property on Thornton, and maybe one halfway through the property on Courtson. And that addresses the transportation issue. And like Joe, you said, I think of manufactured and mobile homes as somewhat synonymous, even though it's different manufacturers. It's just different builders and a little bit of slightly different styles, but they're pretty much, they could probably fit within the same size parameters. I'm trying to think if there was any other issues I did. Oh, I had a question for the city on the 50-foot corridor. We're planning on the 50-foot corridor along the east. Can we commingle the 50-foot corridor with the right-of-way and match it into I'm trying to envision how it's going to look like, the sidewalk. You want separation, do we want separation between the sidewalk and the curb, or is that to be ferreted out during engineering, or can we commingle the areas?
No, we can incorporate the sidewalk into the 50-foot trail corridor. We've done that in past projects, but we'll get more into that when you guys start developing the site. So it'll still be required to be like a 50-foot easement. It can overlap with some of our right-of-way, and we can talk about combining the sidewalk with the trail.
And that's also like a drainage corridor existing also, because the park on the southeast corner is drainage also. So we'll incorporate that together. I think that's all I have.
Okay.
Thank you for hearing this case.
All right. So with that, commission. I closed it before I brought the applicant, I believe. I have technically closed the public portion, but
Sorry.
it's all right.
I live right next to that square that you guys are going to develop. I'd like to know who owns that land. You're the planner, you're not the owner, correct?
That's correct. I work for the city.
And mobile homes are going to be just that. You can move them out and in.
The intent's a manufactured home park.
Ours are mobile homes per se, but they're set permanently. We own the land that our homes sit on. So right behind me, there's another mobile home park going up. And it looks like we're going to be surrounded by mobile homes where people don't own the land or don't have the chance to own the land. Really? Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Okay.
Thank you. I still would like to know who owns the land.
You can look that up on the county assessor's website. The county assessor will show who the current owner is.
Like Sundance owns the land on the other side of my
Yeah,
wall.
so if you go to the county assessor site, you'll be able to find that information. It's public information.
Okay.
Yep. All right, so with that, commission, snacks.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
I'll make a
Member
motion
Bennett.
I'll make a motion to forward a recommendation of approval to the city council for the zone change request.
Yeah.
DSA 220027 from single-family residential to R4 with the conditions as presented.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Garza?
Aye.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Benedict?
Aye.
Chairman Miller?
Yes. All right. Got lost here. All right, next up, public hearing and consider forwarding a recommendation of approval to City Council for a request by EPS Group for the following land use approvals for land generally bound by Pert Road to the east, future Colorado Street to the west, Courtson Road approximately 850 feet to the south, and the north branch of the Santa Cruz River to the north. We have two items, right? Preliminary plat and the variance. DSA-22-00079 and DSA-22-0080.
Thank you, Chairman. So this request is associated with the Bella Vista States neighborhood. A little bit of background. They're submitting for two requests. The first one is for a preliminary plat to propose 239 single-family lots on approximately 54 acres. This area is bound by the future extension of Colorado Street on the west, north of Courtson. And to the east, it's bound by Peart Road. This planned single-family neighborhood sits about 800 feet north of Courtson. There was a previous preliminary plat approved in the mid-2000s that has since expired. It was for 252 single-family lots, but those single-family lots were going to sit upon 74 acres. There were 20 acres to the south that was originally part of the single-family area, but it was rezoned a couple of years ago to accommodate a future multifamily site. This property was also recently rezoned from a PAD, a planned area development, to an R2 zone district with conditions of record. The primary condition of record is that it restricted multifamily development from occurring. It was designed as R2 to accommodate a single-family neighborhood. It was rezoned to R2 to take advantage of the fact that single-family development in the R2 allows smaller lots and smaller lot widths than what could be accommodated as a PAD zone. When reviewing preliminary plats, there's a number of aspects that we look at to make sure that the preliminary plat is adequate. One of them being the conformance with the zoning. So as I mentioned, the R2 zoning does allow a certain size of lot and minimum lot width, which is 5,000 square foot minimum lot size and 45 foot minimum lot width. This preliminary plat actually proposes lots that are a little larger than 5,000. They range between 5,175 square feet and 5,750 square feet. There's going to be 130 lots that are proposed to be 45 feet wide at the 5,175 square foot size. And then there's 109 lots proposed with a minimum lot width of 50 feet, and those are going to be 5,750 square feet in size. One of the other conditions of record associated with this R2 zoning is that it was to comply with particular PAD design guidelines, such as a minimum open space of 20%. This preliminary plat and the landscape plan that was associated with that shows an open space of 22%, so it meets and exceeds that requirement. And then also there was some particular detail that needed to be addressed with regard to streetscapes, entrances, perimeter walls, and that has been met while doing the review of the preliminary plat. Matters such as front yard landscaping, fence returns, and housing product will occur at a later stage. If this were to get approved, their next step would be to final plat, and then when they actually go into the building permit phase, we would have the opportunity to review for those other aspects. The common areas, such as the perimeter walls and open space areas, etc., must be owned and managed by an HOA or a special maintenance district, and establishment of such an entity would occur prior to the recording of the final plat. Another criteria that we look at is drainage and accommodation of drainage flows. I do want to point out that when you see the outline of the proposed subdivision on the screen, you'll see the majority of it is in that light blue. That's actually a 100-year floodplain. To the north of the site where you see the red zebra stripes, that's a floodway. That's part of the Santa Cruz Wash. And that sits just outside of the subdivision to the north. Where you see the orange and blue zebra stripes, that's actually a 500-year floodplain that's not regulated. We treat it the same as a Zone X, which doesn't require any sort of special conditions be done. However, there is concern, of course, about the area that's in blue, the 100-year floodplain. So a CLOMAR, LOMAR will be required prior to final plat approval. That is a process done to place the entire area in a Zone X. One of the ways that the applicant proposes to accomplish that is by constructing a flood wall around the perimeter of the subdivision that's within that 100-year floodplain. That will protect it from excess flows and runoff when there is a flood condition in the Santa Cruz Wash to the north. And the other aspect that I want to talk about is utility access. So the site's to be served with 8-inch water lines or water mains connecting to a proposed 12-inch line in Peart, and it is going to connect with a existing, it's supposed to read 24-inch main in Quartzen, and also they're going to run a new 12-inch water main up Colorado Street for a loop system. Regarding sewer, the subdivision will connect to an 18-inch main in Peart, and then that will flow into an existing 30-inch main in Quartzen. The last item that we look at with regard to preliminary plats is its access to public roads and trails. So there are 2 points of access in and out of the subdivision proposed, one being onto Peart Road, and the other being proposed onto Colorado Street. So Colorado Street will be extended north of Quartzen and will run to the northern boundary of the subdivision. And because of the floodplain issues that I mentioned, where they're proposing a flood wall around the northern portion of the subdivision, is it restricts the ability to immediately access the area to the north. And the area to the north is important because there's a existing regional trail. It's part of the Santa Cruz Linear Park Trail. And so there's benefit to provide pedestrian connection to that. And so instead of running a link through the core of the subdivision itself, they're proposing a 10-foot wide meandering path along Colorado Street, along the east side of Colorado Street up to that regional trail. They are extending Colorado all the way down to Quartzen, but as you see between Quartzen and the single-family area, there's a future multifamily site that's not really going to be part of this development per se. So the public improvements adjacent to the future multifamily site are going to be slightly less than the public improvements that you see for the part of Colorado that's adjacent to the single-family area. There's still going to be the 40-foot half-street right-of-way dedication for Colorado, and there's still going to be curb, but in lieu of a concrete 10-foot wide meandering path in that area, it'll be DG. But once that multifamily site develops, that DG can be replaced with concrete, and that's when curb cuts will be set and street lights in that area, or street lamps. There is a technical modification as a result of their most recent submittal, and that's the fact that the legal description of the preliminary plat, as well as the subdivision boundary, needs to be modified to reflect that leg of Colorado extending to Courtson. And all the vicinity maps on the pre-plat need to reflect that leg. Another technical modification is that the cross-section of Colorado between Courtson and the single-family residential area needs to show a wider right-of-way to be able to align properly with the portion of Colorado Street that sits south of Courtson. And what I mean by that is if you see the center line of Colorado south of Courtson is shifted slightly to the east than the center line of Colorado on the north side of Courtson. So the road curves. And actually, in their detail, they're reflecting that curve, but they have to reflect a slightly wider right-of-way width than the 40 feet. I should also mention that Peart Road will also receive some additional dedication and improvements at the time of the final plat. Will get the dedication, and then the improvements will come with the site development stage. And then the other thing that became a technical modification as a result of the last review is that 10-foot wide meandering path is shown to weave in and out of the public right-of-way. It's not exclusively on the Colorado Street right-of-way. Sometimes it goes on to the open space tract. And so one of the technical modifications is that they will have to note on the pre-plat that a public pedestrian access easement will be provided at the time of the final plat. The other criteria is that there is to be compliance with subdivision regulations, and that covers a variety of different standards, and it meets all of them except for one of the requirements found in the subdivision code, which is with regard to block length. According to the subdivision code, blocks cannot exceed a total of 600 feet or 12 times the minimum lot width allowed in that zone district, which in this case that would be 540 feet. They have one street that is at 880, almost at 883 feet, and so that prompts the need to request a subdivision variance. And the code does allow a variance to be requested. It would need to be granted by City Council, but Planning Commission would be making a recommendation to Council in association with the review of the pre-plat. So in the review of the criteria associated with it, we found that it does, that there are going to be measures to help address the fact that it's an extra long street. You've seen a number of these requests in other presentations, but they are providing traffic calming measures known as chicanes in the center of the block that narrows the street so it improves pedestrian connection. They are providing a central open space area, so even though the block is still exceeding 600 feet, essentially you would meet that requirement if there was a street there in lieu of that open space area. But we feel that the open space area serves a much better purpose there because that street really wouldn't provide any benefit, no real benefit for vehicular connectivity. But yet this way, by providing the open space, it essentially does break up the block, and there will be a pedestrian path through there. Regarding the next steps, Planning Commission, of course, is considering this pre-plat, and if the pre-plat's approved, the Planning Commission would make a recommendation to Council regarding the subdivision variance. The City Council would then decide on the subdivision variance. If that's approved, Council would then consider the final plat. Once that all gets approved, then they can move on to their site development and public improvement permit stage. Regarding notification, the public notice met all of the requirements set forth by code. There were no comments provided as a result of our public notification requirements. Staff does recommend that Planning Commission forward a recommendation to City Council to approve the subdivision variance. And then we also recommend that Planning Commission approve the preliminary plat subject to the updated technical modifications I talked about on the previous slide. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff?
Chairman, I have a question. James, the two out parcels that are along Pert, is there any way to have those landscaped so that they don't accumulate weeds and no one maintains them, and then folks are living right next to these blank acre areas?
Commissioner Garza, so one thing that will happen is there will be a wall along the boundary of the subdivision, so that will help with the screening of that area. As far as how it's dressed up and how it looks, at least from view of Peart Road, that's a challenge because it's not owned by this owner. They're old well sites, so the applicant may have some sort of recommended approach on how to address that, because it would be in his best interest too that the subdivision maintains a nice appearance all the way along Peart. But at a minimum, it would result, how that property looks would resort to our code measures in terms of weeds and code enforcement, ensuring that at least weeds are kept to a minimum. North and south of those well sites, though, will be landscaped areas. So my hope is that the overall look of Peart, with the landscape frontage being provided by the subdivider adjacent to their areas, will help camouflage those two well sites that sit in between that expanse of landscaping.
Okay.
Question? No? I was thinking. Member Benedict? You have a question?
Yeah, and we've approved, it seems like a whole bunch of the longer blocks with the chicanes. Is there someplace that you can get to in a decent time, that we could get to in a decent time to see those in an actual development?
I'm turning to Jacqueline because she just showed me a picture the
Road
other
trip,
day, and I'm trying to remember where that was.
All right, everybody,
Oh,
we're going to take a
Scottsdale.
recess, we're all road tripping out of here.
We're getting on the
Yes,
van.
it's Orlando, Florida. Scottsdale.
That's in Paul's budget, right?
Yeah. Commissioner Benedict, I can get you that location in Scottsdale. We were talking about it earlier about finding an area that had that, but I can look to see if there's some other examples either elsewhere or closer to there. But
Yeah,
they're around. You just kind of have to look for them. I don't know if there's some examples within our city specifically.
There soon will be.
Yeah, there's
a bunch of them apparently once they get built.
but they keep coming with
I know.
them,
Yeah.
so I kind of like to know.
I mean, in
better
the photo,
educated.
you can see where, between the street, the drivable portion of the street and the sidewalk, what happens is there's an area that bumps out.
Yeah.
But if you were to query chicane online, it's going to pull up not just that example, but sometimes it's done with like plastic bollards and such. So that's not actually what we're describing when we talk about a chicane. We're talking about a landscaped area that mimics the photo shown there.
I think we'd all appreciate if you could do a little look and see if there's something, that's a little bit nearby, and that we could see and share it with all the commissioners.
Sure.
These are getting longer, too.
Yeah, it's just like when it was one or two, that was, but we've had, and it seems like it's something, and I'd just like to be better I mean, I can see it, you've got great, I'm not knocking the presentations at all, but it'd be great to be able to see it actually in
Right.
place. Okay,
I
thank
would,
you.
so I will, but also real quick, I guess it's not technically a quote unquote chicane, but within the Mission Royale neighborhood along, I don't think it's actually Agua Fria. I think that Google has the wrong street name labeled there, but it's the most northerly street just south of Florence Boulevard in the active adult community. They have a mid-block roundabout. So although that's not a chicane per se, that's a traffic calming device, because what happens is such a long block that it creates a speedway. So having that infrastructure in there, that little roundabout, it slows the traffic, albeit maybe briefly, but it just helps control the speed.
Yep. If you could share that with us, that'd be great, if you have any ideas about that.
It's great too if you forgot something and needed to turn around and go back to the house real quick.
Did I shut my garage?
Any other questions for staff? You guys have? No? I just have a couple concerns. If you want to go back to the site plan as far as the plat goes. The chicane we're discussing or proposing currently is in front of two properties. And everyone that we'd seen, I think, up to this point had green belts on both sides. This is a new, kind of a new endeavor for us, I guess, as far as approving these. And so I didn't know, I know that we've got the proposed trail, but if we're going to put this through here, it's like a natural progression to get through to the trail system, right? If we didn't do it in front of two houses and just had it transfer through. I don't know engineering wise whether that retentions and all those other things works, but that seems like a more appropriate progression potentially. Because that seems weird to me.
Right. So the reason why the trail couldn't continue directly north is because that's where the flood wall is, and there's not a way to breach that flood wall without flooding the subdivision. So, or potential flooding. I shouldn't say that it would be, assured, but it's a protective measure. So that's why they are indeed running a trail along Colorado. But I think your point is well taken, particularly with the regard to the chicane on the north side of the street, because with these lots only being 45 or 50 foot wide and there's curbside parking, those two lots are on the short end of the straw, because there won't really be an ability to park vehicles in front of those two lots per se. The way that we look at the condition is that, and if you want, we can clarify this for the minutes, is it's usually chicanes or other similar traffic calming measures. So I can get Dwayne's feedback as well and Paul's, but I think for the purpose of this street, there doesn't necessarily need to be a chicane on the north side of the road, because it doesn't, other than people who are walking along the sidewalk on the north side of the road and then want to cross over the open space area. To your point, that trail doesn't go anywhere north of there. So there wouldn't necessarily be a real reason to chicane on the north side.
I thought the intent of the chicane was to make the road feel smaller in width. So wouldn't you want that to be both sides?
All right. I mean, it would still narrow it if it was chicaned on the south side, but that's true. Then you do end up with a wider road without the chicane on the north side.
But what you're saying is, James, there'd be people parking on that side
Right.
anyways.
Right. I was
Yeah, it just
going to
seems-
comment on that. Well, if everyone parks on the street, then there's your narrow road.
That's a traffic calming measure.
Yes.
Or they park on the street. The second thing, larger, the full map, I guess the only thing, and I don't know, the entrance, yeah, that one's perfect. So the entrance there, the only thing that's a little bit goofy in regards to, and Dwayne, you can kind of talk about this, and I know we're talking about future, but I'm just bringing it up in conversation since we're still at the preliminary plat stage. the future multifamily and where its exits may or may not be, which could potentially be on PERT, but then we're adding another exit very close to each other. And then also access, even though those two are just very small well sites, what are their requirements or to allow access? Even if it's for maintenance or it becomes something else. And so then how do they now get in and out of those? And so we're not creating many entrances along PERT.
So I believe the Dollar General store right in there.
Yeah, it's,
And it has a cross-access, what I remember, going over to that corner where the well site is.
that's on the very, closer to Courtson. Right, because the Dollar General sits right on Courtson.
Yeah,
Dollar
I'm
General?
moving
Yes.
it with my mouse here.
Yeah, right, it's right in there at the bottom of the.
Yeah, so as I remember, we made them do a cross-access to the corner. No, he was talking about how to get, you're talking about the multifamily, how to get in there.
Well, so if you took the multifamily and you said, okay, where's their ingress egress?
You're talking about the well
And I know that we don't know because they're not being built, so bear with me. I'll just-
the well sites north, right?
Yeah.
He's talking about both.
On PERT. I'm talking about both. The well sites on PERT,
We also
here,
was talking about
depending
this.
on who you are and how you want to pronounce that. But I call it PERT. And then, similar to this subdivision, if they were going to do an ingress and egress, and they did it one on Colorado and one on PERT, now we've got those two entrances very close to each other. If the PERT ones. I'm not as concerned about the Colorado one, but, because that's going to be a heavy flow, a lot of traffic.
So I'm not sure, what are you asking now?
So
My
then-
concern is, do we have a conversation about moving that ingress egress on PERT further north?
Yeah.
And then my second question, which doesn't have anything to do with that, which was, I just don't know what the rules are for allowing the well sites access off of PERT, and does that complicate lots of entry points, right? We've talked about this in our,
I don't recall us talking about the well site.
not this specifically, just lots of entry points on roadways.
And we
That's
would
all.
not, so that driveway on Pier for the development, as I recall, that's close to the quarter mile point.
Correct.
So we would allow full access at quarter mile point.
But what about the driveway to the north, to the well site, which is 20 feet away from that?
Yeah, we really never talked about the well sites.
Right. So that would be my, because they need, technically, we gotta be able to allow them to access from the street.
What if they just got access from the interior streets, from the residential streets, from the inside?
Well, that would definitely be a solution if they worked out an agreement to, look, he's shaking his head, nope. Not happening.
But the well sites are just bad,
So maybe the,
Yeah.
bad.
we can circle back around to my very complex, complicated question here that I think I made it messier than it needed to be, because I think the applicant does want to speak, so he may be able to help with some things as well. So I'm gonna pause my question and ask if there are any other questions for staff at this moment.
Can I talk about the well sites? So,
Do you want to talk about them first? Yeah.
so they have very little traffic.
Yeah, 100%. I agree they have very little traffic.
So what we do a lot of times is we'll allow them to have driveways closer than we would normally
Sure.
anybody else. And we would want a right turn lane going into their access, which makes some issues here because we also would want a right turn lane into the development access on Peart.
Right.
We have a requirement, all driveways on arterials need to have a right lane. So I just don't recall us ever talking about how this was going to work to that detail.
Sure.
So I'm done.
Okay. So we might need to work with that a little bit more, but applicant, you want to come on forward and shine some light on.
Chairman, members of the commission, I'm Dale Willis, Willis Property Company, 3850 East Baseline Road in Mesa. Thank you for taking a moment to review our case here tonight. Thank you, Jim, for your presentation. We appreciate that. I'm here to answer any questions, so if you want to talk about the well sites or whatever, I'm here to answer any questions or make my opinions on a few things, so.
So I think you non-verbally answered the question about access to the well sites from the interior, but.
Yeah, the main reason is because of the floodplain. With the floodplain wall that would be constructed, if you breach that, if you have some type of ingress egress north of that entrance off of Peart or Pert, it'll cause a problem with FEMA and with our Clomar-Lomar process. And so that's the reason why we can't have that entrance off of Peart further north, is because of the floodplain issue. And so, as well as off of Colorado. We'd like to have them further north, but we just can't logistically put them there just because of the floodplain. And the two well sites, we don't own those. Those are owned by the Clapp family and Robert Horn. We had originally bought that 80-acre parcel from them years ago, but they retained those well sites in order to continue farming on our property, as well as their 70 acres just to the west of us, as well as all that Elaine Farms parcel west of Courtson, north of Courtson, west of Treckle, which they used to own, but they still farm it. So that's where those wells service all those farming parcels. Now, when they go out of production, meaning farming production, we don't know what's going to happen to the wells. So that kind of gives you an idea who owns those wells, and the reason why we had to put those ingress-egress points right there off of Peart as well as Colorado. So
It just feels like they could have been adapted into the site better, to where they're holistically in there, but
Yeah.
have the separate ownership type thing.
But the Clapps and Mr. Horn did not want to discuss that. They're not ready to talk about what's going to happen to those wells. They want to use them.
So
They didn't want us.
help me understand how the flood wall is going to look around those. It's going to look like a U shape, right?
Yeah, it'll be just a regular exterior wall like you see in all your subdivisions, but it's just going to be a wider, thicker wall that can handle the flood. It's not going to be like your normal perimeter wall that you see. It'll be a little bit wider one, maybe a little bit taller, but the foundation will be a lot deeper in order to handle the quantities of water if it ever gets to that 100-year event, that it'll handle it without any problem. So
in theory, your wall is actually just damming the water from coming onto your property.
that's all it is, yeah.
Is that a solid pour, or do they use block on that?
It's block.
Is it block?
Yeah, split face block, but it's going to be, engineered in a way where it'll take care of all the water. In fact, we're submitting our Clomar to FEMA tomorrow, as well as to the city and the county, I think tomorrow or Monday, so.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay.
And thank you for approving item number 2 tonight, or 320 acres too, so
Yeah,
thank
there
you
you
for
go.
that.
Okay. I think, the only thing worst case scenario is going to be sorting out the right turn lane access off of Pert. But that's why we paid you the big bucks.
With a limited amount of traffic going into those well sites.
No, I'm not worried about the well
No,
site.
I'm just saying.
They're going to have to dedicate right away in front of the well site, is what
Yeah, so that
Robert-
right turn lane, and
Yeah.
what's gonna happen with the half-street construction there?
Oh, yeah, it
I
needs
never
to be.
really got involved in any of that.
Okay.
I don't know.
You will though, right?
You
Dwayne?
will, for final.
Yeah, I just, at this point, I remember looking at it and saying where the driveway needed to be, but I didn't
Okay,
know the well sites were there.
sounds good. Well, thank you for being here this evening.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
At this time, then I'll open it up to the public. Anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Seeing nobody, I will close the public portion. And bring it to the commission. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot going on there.
I know.
There's a lot going on there in that one.
Can you put a hold on it until they fix it?
It's in the next,
Can we continue it, just so they can look into the?
Yeah.
it's in the next round.
Well, technically, so I'm gonna defer to staff, so I don't misspeak here, because technically we can, approving a preliminary plat, we still have a final plat.
I don't think so, we only hear preliminary.
You guys sign off on the final plat on your own,
Yes.
Correct.
and then forwarding the recommendation of approval for the variance is, oh, we could, yeah. So you're gonna choose now, or?
Because you kind of have to know about the wells, and
Well, that's not, I don't think they're gonna change.
but how they, go into the subdivision. It's going to be too close for the other subdivision.
Well, how do you get the right turn lane? I don't know. Is everybody here? See, we do need it on the minutes, so make sure that your microphone's picking up. So Michelle doesn't fight for 4 days to,
It's not picking up.
it's not picking up anything but me. Nice.
That's the way he wants it.
All right, so
Can we table this so they
you guys can choose to do whatever you want. I can't stop you from making a motion. You could make a motion to table, you can make a motion to approve, you can make a motion to deny, you can make a motion to.
Mr. Chairman, can we be a little more specific about what your concern is about the well sites?
it's the well sites and plus going in and out of the subdivision? Because the other subdivision that's just south of it,
The multifamily?
So it'll only be allowed right in, right out, correct? The multifamily
But this is gonna be apartment.
to the south.
that's going to be.
That's not included, right? That's just the dirt,
Right, they will not get a full access on Peart
right?
multifamily.
They'll get only right in, right out if they were to go on to Pert Road, right?
Correct.
That if they chose to not go out of Pert, I mean, I don't know, or got some sort of other fire access through the commercial property or something. There's a lot of things that could happen.
I mean, they could have an emergency fire access
Right.
there. There's going to be a raised median down Peart, so.
So then, but then you're gonna get rid of their full access.
No, they'll have a
No,
median break
that'll be the
at their
opening.
driveway. 'cause it's a
For the
quarter mile
subdivision will get a
right.
median break.
Pardon me?
The subdivision will get a median break.
Yes. But the,
But they don't have the ability to put in a right turn lane because they don't own the land that the right turn lane would have to occupy.
There
yes,
might
and
be
that's an
enough
issue.
right away there, already
How much,
on per,
what's the existing right of way? Anybody know on Pert?
There's likely just a 33-foot roadway easement on the west side of the center line. There's probably a total of 66 feet as a roadway easement. There isn't any formally dedicated right-of-way there as of yet.
scratch that.
It was a good try though. I liked where your head was at. I did.
So I would be concerned about holding this project up when we don't know what, for an answer
For the next
to a
one.
question that they're not even there. I mean, it's not even.
I'm not worried
how do we
about that
even
one
decide
anymore.
that? And then the other piece is they can't move their entrances, they can't move them north to speak of because of the flood control, so
Well, they
I
could, it
can-
just gets more expensive because then they gotta raise that portion. They gotta somehow remove floodplain to then move that road. I mean, technically you could, just time and money, right? That's all it costs, like
That's all it
anything,
takes.
it's all it takes, right?
I just don't understand, I mean, the flood wall thing really gets me. I feel like you could just put those contiguous, and they could landscape them, and they can be a part of this
Yeah, if you just,
subdivision.
if the well owners agreed
Yes.
that the well, or no, sorry.
That
not the
they
well,
are usable wells,
that the
and they're
wall
landscaped
beautiful. Yes.
that the wall could go through, but I don't know exactly where the well is in relation to where the wall would be, and there's a whole lot of moving parts there. It seems simple, though,
Road trip.
in theory.
Well, and then they're gonna be concerned about getting equipment into the well site. And
Yep.
if you made them come in from the
Residential side.
development, that's gonna crimp that. Yeah, I don't see,
That won't be exciting for
yeah, I mean,
residential owners.
Nope.
yeah, I mean, I would get where they would come from saying, no, I've got my access that I need, and it's once every,
Once a
year
year,
or whatever.
maybe
Yeah,
every
they-
6 months. If
Yeah,
they're-
they hope it's not any more than that.
Right. So yeah, I'm gonna defer to you, Dwayne, here in regards to this right turn lane thing. That's the only thing that's hanging me up in my head. Because we require technically a right turn lane into this property.
Well, they're gonna require
channeling my
half-street
inner Duke right
improvements. I mean, there's a half-street improvement along Pert that they'll have to build for the subdivision. How are they gonna build that half-street in pieces, in 3 pieces? No.
They're not gonna jump the well side. I'm assuming they're gonna create, I don't know.
There's a lot that need, there's a lot of questions.
Yeah, because they're not required to build their half street over those well sites.
To me, that's not okay.
But they are going to though, right? No, you don't know. Do you know? They're doing the Colorado one, but we didn't address the PERT side. That's,
We would have to look.
Mr. Willis, are you guys planning on doing the whole street? Or are you skipping over the well sites? I love it.
Like we've done with other subdivisions here, where we have out parcels like that, we'll address those at time of engineering and making sure that it all meets city code, because the city's going to require, in my opinion, the widening of that. Those are acre lots there where those wells are. And I think as you widen Peart Road, it's going to be very close to those wells, and I've already told Chad, clap that. What do we do? Type of thing. The city's not going to have a little out parcel. Here we are, we've widened all of Peart Road, and you have a couple out parcels there, which is their properties. And I think it's just a matter of we'll have to work that through during our engineering phase like we have with other projects down here and other places. And so I don't know the answer to that for Commissioner Garza here tonight, for some type of a right in, right out at our entrance there. I think we just have to explore that when we get to the engineering phase, which is the next step that we're planning on going with, and then we'll work with Dwayne and staff with that, so.
Thank you.
I don't know if that helps you, but.
Member Benedict. Right?
It'd be a lot easier if I owned the wells,
Yeah.
which I wanted to when we bought the property 20 years ago, but they wouldn't sell them, so.
Benedict.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I would move to forward a recommendation to the City Council to approve subdivision variance DSA 22-00080 for Bella Vista Estates.
Second.
So a motion to approve, this is in regards to the variance, a motion and a second to approve, just so everybody's clear, this is on the chicanes. Does that make sense?
We should make
Just on the
chicanes from the
chicanes.
The
wells.
length of the road.
Chicanes. All right, so motion and a second, any other discussion in regards to this? Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Member Vanderhayden,
Yes.
Member Hubbard,
Yes.
Member Garza,
Aye.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Member Estrada,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Benedict,
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I would
Member
move,
Benedict.
I would move approval of the Mission Ranch 2 preliminary plat DSA 22000079, subject to the technical modifications. That's all we had, right, James, was these technical modifications?
Yes, but it's not Mission Ranch, it's Bella Vista Estates.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. But these.
That's what you were typing. I saw all of a sudden some things being deleted. I was like, wow, we're really loose around here. Just started changing things during the presentation.
You weren't supposed to see that.
I wasn't supposed to read this one, I was supposed to read this one.
Read the one on the screen.
Yeah. Don't look at what's in front of you.
It was all, yeah, that I've read 3 times, okay, never mind.
But yes, these 3 are the updated technical modifications.
I'm assuming your,
Again, Attorney?
I'm assuming your motion was for Bella Vista Estates.
Yes.
We got the appropriate
Please.
DSA number.
Yes, thank you for correcting.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second for approval, preliminary plat of Bella Vista Estates. Any discussion?
So I just wanted to mention
Yeah, please.
that the right-of-way dedication on Pure is 70 feet, right? The right-of-way?
Okay.
The width of the half-street that they'll have to build is 52 feet.
Okay.
The existing easement that's across the well sites is 33 feet. So they couldn't fit the improvements to PERT in those little areas without getting the right-of-way dedication.
Okay.
Just
So the
wanted to
street's
say
gonna
that.
go like,
No, it's not. Shouldn't.
wait, I thought that's what you just explained to me.
That's
I'm so
exactly what
confused.
I explained to you. I'm just letting you know, so it could weigh on your mind.
Can weigh on my mind, so.
So can we make a recommendation for something else?
Yeah, but how do you do that with, it's a different owner that is not interested in?
Then they need to figure out how to do this.
Together.
Mm-hmm. Or
You
or
can-
figure out how to do the flood zone differently.
You can.
Well, but ultimately, you would say that it shouldn't stop us from the preliminary plat. It could stop the city from development to say, well, you need to get this agreement,
That's what
but
I
we
was
don't
gonna
have
say.
that.
Right. Yeah, just, I mean, they're gonna have to figure this out to submit the final plat,
So-
correct? Because that's where they dedicate the right-of-way, that's where they show the ins and outs, the ingress and egress, so all of that will have to be determined, city council has to approve the final plat, city engineer has to sign off on the final plat. So all of that will be, I don't know how they're gonna fix it, but it'll have to be determined before they submit that final plat.
So can you make the recommendation of what she just said? So then city council will know what we're looking at?
Well, they'll get our minutes. They're gonna know that we were very concerned about those well sites and the road widths and
I'm
the right
just saying,
turn
but
lanes.
I'm just making
Michelle's
sure
gonna put it
what
real clear in
Celeste,
there.
how she just presented.
I'm
it,
gonna
that-
try if you speak up.
Because those are some major concerns.
Well, and you can turn down the motion.
You can always vote no.
Yeah, you can vote no on my motion. I was just trying to move
I know,
forward.
I know,
You know, because
You don't like hanging out with us all night or what?
I'll hang out with you, but not on the same subject.
That's fair.
Call for question.
All right, we got a call for the question. Michelle, please call the roll.
Member Vanderhayden.
Yes.
Member Hubbard.
no.
Member Garza.
No.
Member Peters.
Aye.
Member Estrada.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Benedict.
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Oh, you made my life easy, didn't you? That was pretty nice of you.
I could have done that.
Yeah, I know, you could have done that. I'm gonna go ahead and vote aye. I think that I think staff and the applicant, everybody will work everything out in the end, but I appreciate the concerns, because they were concerns of mine in the review.
They are concerns.
Yeah, so, all right. Means we covered both of them, right?
Yeah.
Even though they're opposite in our agenda from how we approve them. Next up, public hearing to consider forwarding a recommendation of approval to City Council. Request by Alex Fish of ABLA. The following land use approvals within the Casa Grande Commons PAD general bound by Mission Parkway and portions of Hacienda Road. Interstate 10, Courtson Road. I'm just going to jump to DSA-22-00025 for a minor general plan amendment. DSA-21-00277 for a major amendment to the Casa Grande Commons PAD.
All right, so there are two different requests being discussed within this presentation as you had introduced this item. There's both a request to amend the Casa Grande Commons Planned Area Development Zone, as well as a request to do a minor general plan amendment. And I always like to remind Planning Commission that since it's a minor general plan amendment, it can be considered at any time. It's not lumped with the major general plan amendments that can only occur once a year. So the two requests are specifically to amend the PAD zone to accomplish a couple of things. One is to introduce residential land use in areas of the PAD that was previously entitled only for commercial and industrial use. Another reason behind the amendment is to provide new development areas within the PAD. Those development areas will set forth uses and development standards allowed for each of those areas. Because they are introducing residential within an area that was previously just for commercial and industrial, the PAD has also been amended to provide a very extensive list of compatibility measures with specific buffers between potentially conflicting uses. And then the minor general plan amendment is to remove the portion of the Casa Grande Commons PAD that is currently within the growth area phase 2 of the general plan 2030 to place it into growth area phase 1. It would help if you know where Casa Grande Commons is, so I should show you the map here. It's a 590-acre PAD. Interstate 10 is its boundary on the west. Courtson is its boundary on the north. There's portions of it that go to Hacienda on the east, but Mission Parkway serves as primarily the eastern boundary. They are requesting to amend a 540-acre area of the PAD. There's a 50-acre area of the PAD down by the corner of Florence and Hacienda to the east of the promenade that is not being amended. It's going to retain its current existing entitlements. And so the area in white there identifies the area of the PAD to be amended, and then the area in blue is the area subject to the minor general plan amendment. The current PAD, the currently approved PAD, is shown on the left here. As you see, it was divided into basically 4 land use areas. The area immediately next to Interstate 10 was to accommodate regional business and commerce uses. And then as you started to go east away from I-10, there was an area to allow complementary commercial uses. And then there was a small area for medium density residential next to Hacienda. And then there was a transitional commercial area near Hacienda and Florence. The proposed PAD revises this, and it creates different development areas with very specific mixtures of uses. And really the impetus for what's driving the amendment is the fact that there was a general plan change done a number of years ago. The current PAD was approved when this area was designated as commerce and business in the general plan. And at the time, commerce and business did not allow any residential development if part of a PAD. In 2019, we created a large mixed-use general plan category, which does allow a vibrant mixture of different uses. And this area actually did undergo a major general plan amendment at that time to place the bulk of the PAD into large mixed use, and that was carried forward with our general plan 2030. And so now this next step is for them to revise the PAD and introduce uses that are in line with that approved large mixed-use general plan designation. So in all 4 of the proposed development areas, it will allow a mixture of residential, mixed use, and commercial. The general plan allows for that, and you're going to see that mixture. But in the 2 development areas next to the interstate, it's actually going to also allow industrial into the blend. Another aspect of the large mixed-use category is because it is designed to contemplate a mixture of all kinds of different uses, there's some thresholds on that. So for example, up to 50% of the large mixed-use area can be developed residentially. 20% of that area can have high-density residential up to 40 dwelling units per acre. 30% of that area can have a medium density of up to 12 dwelling units per acre. And then any of the residential area can have a density up to 6 dwelling units per acre. 50% of the large mixed-use area can be developed for industrial purposes, and up to 70% of the area can be commercial uses. So if this PAD is to be approved, this will actually be the first PAD that utilizes and takes advantage of this new large mixed-use general plan category. We have a couple of other sites that are in the large mixed-use general plan designation. Phoenix Mart's one. Even though it's outside of the city limits, Atessa is another. But their zonings do not contemplate what's allowed within the large mixed use. So if this is approved, this will be the first PAD that utilizes this general plan designation. When reviewing amendments to PADs, these are the criteria that have to get evaluated, and I just want to talk about these 2 highlighted items. The first one is the interrelationship of the plan elements to conditions both on and off the property. In order to discuss that, though, it also sort of interweaves another criteria, which is vehicular connectivity, because they kind of go hand in hand. This site is immediately next to a wide expanse of I-10. I mean, it goes from just north of the promenade all the way up to Quartzen. So it has a lot of exposure to the I-10 corridor. And so it also has the opportunity for good connectivity to I-10 because of the existing interchange at Florence and State Route 287 and the planned interchange at Quartzen in I-10. So the uses and the mixture of uses will really take advantage of that highway traffic and the opportunity that can come about because of that adjacency. It also has good additional other connections, such as Cottonwood dividing the site to the north and south, and that's considered a principal arterial there. And then you have Hacienda on the far east, which is designed as a minor arterial. Mission Parkway will also extend, and then Promenade Parkway is also shown to extend to serve as a frontage road between Mission and I-10. So this will have a really good, thorough vehicular connection route, and so that helps address the mixture and density and intensity of uses that are proposed. Because large mixed use is a different animal in that it allows so many different uses, the applicant had to prepare a PAD that took that into consideration. And so it's not a typical PAD in that there's a defined land use areas where you have a node of this specific quadrant is going to be residential and nothing else, and this specific quadrant is going to be another use. So what they've done is they've created a land use compatibility chart that really drives what uses can be next to other uses. And in some cases, certain uses aren't allowed to be next to other uses at all. For example, low density residential and medium density residential is not allowed to be next to industrial. But this chart also imparts certain performance standards that requires in certain cases landscape buffering, walls of certain heights, and specific separation of uses. Staff recommends that Planning Commission forward to Council a recommendation to approve this major amendment to the Casa Grande Commons PAD. But in order to consider the amendment to the PAD, we also have to talk about the growth phase areas. Because the north half of the PAD, north of Cottonwood, sits in growth area phase 2, we can't contemplate an amendment to the PAD without putting the phase 2 area into growth area phase 1. So on the left is the current condition, on the right is the request to put the whole area in phase 1. The difference between phase 1 and phase 2 basically speaks to the availability to serve that particular area with city services and whether there's adequate infrastructure in or nearby the area to serve the site. Phase 2, of course, are typically those areas that are further away from the core of the city and can't be as easily served, and phase 1 sites are areas that are more easily able to be served. When reviewing the general plan criteria for minor general plan amendments, these are the criteria that have to be evaluated, and I'm going to specifically speak on the 2 highlighted items. So firstly, with regard to cause, certificates of assured water supply, this PAD will be developed in such a way that it won't trigger cause. They're not going to propose a subdivision where they're taking a parcel and creating more than 5 lots in the immediate future. It has some flexibility to where in the future, if the rules and policies change, there's the ability to potentially do that if necessary, but otherwise they can develop it without cause, and basically they could enter into a water service agreement with Arizona Water Company to serve the development that's proposed. What triggers the cause is if they were doing a more than 5 lot subdivision to a parcel, but they have it proposed in a manner that that's not necessarily going to happen. They would just simply be able to develop large parcels with a water service agreement with Arizona Water Company. The other aspect to look at is the sewer and the ability to serve the site with wastewater. So all of the area that is shown here is growth area 1. And you can see there's a number of either existing or proposed developments that have been put into growth area phase 1. Some are a little bit further out than others, but ultimately we had determined that this was appropriate to be in phase 1 because there's a limited amount of wastewater availability here, or otherwise there's an alternative solution, specifically like for Post Ranch, for example, down in that southeast corner. We're exploring the idea of a satellite wastewater facility. The north side of Cottonwood is within the growth area phase 2. And when staff evaluated this site as whether it truly needed to be in phase 2, we determined that it doesn't need to be in phase 2 because not only can some of the site benefit from potential wastewater connection that's in Mission, stubbed out on the north end of Promenade. The other aspect is in their sewer analysis, the gravity flow of sewer naturally goes to the northwest corner of their site. So what will likely happen is they will bore under I-10 with a sewer main to the main that's in Courtson to serve the north half of the site. And it can easily be accommodated. And of course, when we look at the fine details with regard to the sewer infrastructure that would normally happen when they go to do their first development in that area, we would look at more detailed sewer analysis and whether or not their infrastructure is adequate to accommodate their proposal. But their plan is to connect via Courtson. Staff does recommend that Planning Commission forward to City Council a recommendation to approve the minor general plan amendment, which would place the area that's in Phase 2 into Phase 1. And with regard to the public notification process, it met all that is required by code. I did receive one phone call as a result of the notification efforts from a nearby landowner. He didn't express opposition. He was mainly just wondering what exactly would be developed there because he was hoping that this will spur additional east side development. Staff does have two recommendations. The first pertains to the minor amendment to the general plan. We're recommending that Planning Commission forward to council a recommendation to approve this, to place the entirety of the PAD into Phase 1. And then our second recommendation is that you forward to council a recommendation to approve the major amendment to the Casa Grande Commons PAD. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff?
Good job.
Member Benedict? Yeah.
So, you said the septic, the sewer is along Courtson Road, but not underneath the freeway?
So currently, there's a sewer main that is along Courtson Road west of I-10. It meets up with the north-south sewer line that runs in the Cox Road alignment, parallel to I-10, just immediately on the west side. So there is a connection literally just on the other side of the interstate.
And does the developer have to help with that cost of making that connection?
Yes.
Thank you.
No questions? No? Oh, overpasses.
Courts.
Oh, easy, I'll get to you guys. Hang on, I'll get to you, don't worry.
Chomping at the bit.
So traffic impact analysis, all those fun things, right? We got a 2-lane road that goes over I-10 at Cottonwood, say we're excluding on-off ramps, things like that. How does that all come to play for what they're required to do, not do? It's a large development and assuming at some point it could be.
Cottonwood wouldn't have access to I-10, right?
I know.
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't-
Every
not
two,
talking about
every
on-off
2
ramps.
miles on the freeway.
Not talking about on-off ramps, just talking about overpasses. It's a lot of,
Oh, you think it should be widened?
I'm just curious, like you say a traffic impact analysis, now all of a sudden says that Cottonwood needs to be 4 lanes, 2 in each direction, but there's a overpass.
Across the overpass.
How does that all tie together? Because I know it's slowly getting there, coming to I-10.
Well, we'd have to look at that at the time of the TI.
I like you. I like you.
It depends. So, yeah, their TIA would show that certain roadways need to be built or traffic signals or whatever, and then we negotiate who pays for what. It's not real simple that I can just answer.
I know it's not. I just, for kind of general information as hopefully, right, we see continued development on this side. I'm just trying to kind of spur one for all those viewers at home right now that are watching us, so that we're thinking about all these other aspects, though they may not apply, but how they may tie in.
We do have future widening of overpass and Cottonwood in future CIPs.
Okay. That's
So,
good.
you know,
I'm sure that makes these guys happy. Yeah, Member Benedict.
So can you go back to the slide that showed the, I guess they're conceptual roadways? You had several going north and south, okay.
Go.
Well, help my concerns about, particularly if we're putting industrial kinds of things along I-10, which is great. This D, that concerns me that we're gonna end up with heavy no, the other one.
The other.
There you go. That we're gonna have, large truck traffic, et cetera, through the Promenade Mall. Help me feel better about that.
Dwayne? No, I was just kidding.
Yes. Oh.
Well, although all joking aside, I think maybe the applicant can speak to that.
Okay.
But my quick thought on that is that I think that road serves a good purpose in general because it does provide connectivity from the promenade up to Courtson.
Yep, I don't disagree.
Mind you, that aside, your concern is as well, there's going to be truck traffic on it as well, and could that negatively impact promenade? But my thought is that there, although it's hard to predict exactly the travel behavior of trucks,
Absolutely.
I think as it starts to go into a more congested area, they would be less inclined to go through a shopping center, essentially, if there's adequate other options, and there will be, because they do have the ability to go along Cottonwood. These little access arrows, although they're designed to just be potential, maybe local streets, et cetera, at the time of evaluating a major site plan, there may be the need and the call for an additional connection between Promenade and Mission, perhaps not all that far north of the north boundary of the Promenade Mall, just to get some of that superfluous traffic, not through the promenade, but over onto some other roadways.
Sure, and fully realizing that this has got a lot of steps to go before we can answer any of those questions. It just, when I saw that, I was kind of like, oh, here we go, and so. Anyway, thank you.
Interesting. Any other questions? No? Okay. Walk me through, we got a PAD that is separated, correct?
We do, yep.
But if we're amending the PAD, but we're not amending the other PAD, then they're not one PAD.
It's like Michigan. The what the PUD guide
Makes
does,
it clear as mud right there. That's perfect.
what the
Please walk me
PUD
through
guide
this.
does is it does carry forward the part that's not being amended. It includes an appendix that is essentially the currently approved PAD guide that is noted that it's that area is currently designated as what's known as transitional commercial in the currently approved PAD, and there's a list of development standards and uses. And so as an appendix to this new PAD, the old PAD is going to be included, emphasizing that transitional commercial section is going to be applicable to that part that's not being amended.
It'll work.
Okay.
Trust them.
Those were words. I got you. I followed you a little bit.
It just carries it
Yeah.
forward. putting
It's still
it
in
simply-
there.
Yeah. It's
It's
just-
all
It's
existing.
not being amended, they're not proposing any new.
So technically they are, but the small little piece is just within the appendix. So it still fits under what it's at.
No new uses or development standards are proposed for that 47.79 acre area. But to address your concern about, well, is it going to become this separate PAD? How do, are we going to lose track of it? No, because this new PAD is going to reference the fact that that little orphan there is subject to the old PAD, and it's going to include that as an appendix so that we can have one resource to know what uses and standards are allowed for that area.
I feel like to an extent we should think about PADs, which would be a planned area development, being somewhat continuous.
Well,
But that's a future conversation and not these applicants' issue.
So prior to Casa Grande Commons coming about in 2000, I think it was 16 or so, it was actually part of the Casa Grande Regional Shopping Center, which is the PAD that the promenade sits in. So the PAD for the promenade is actually used to be this entire area that you
Right.
see here. So that was the first orphan.
Right, but then, which I get, but now all of a sudden it's like, this was all one big PAD. And now we have, it's starting to get fractioned out, right? So then all of a sudden it could become very convoluted in saying, well, it's just a separate PAD. Because I'm assuming, and I could be wrong, but the assumption would be we're gonna amend the PAD, right? And within that very specific PAD document that states, okay, this legal description is not going to abide by what you just adopted, but it's still within this PAD and it's going to follow these rules. But we're adopting these new rules, but it's all within that PAD, so technically then could they apply those rules to this PAD? Right, like to this parcel that's within that PAD, so it could become something else also. And so it just starts to make it messier down the road, I guess, that's my.
So what is your preference, that they just have submitted a brand-new PAD for that parcel, rather than amend the old one?
Like, create their own PAD for this section,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
But it's a separate way of thinking about it. Anyways,
Mr. Chairman, remember what I said earlier?
it'll work itself out. It'll work itself out. It'll work itself out. It'll be fine. What could go wrong? We could just end up with a well site in the middle of a subdivision, that's all. Applicant, hey, you've been chomping at the bit. I made you wait long enough. Come on forward here. Welcome, thank you for hanging out.
Did you need the clicker?
You're not last or the least.
You know, maybe to answer questions, Jim.
So.
Well, thank you for the time this evening. Andy Barron with ABLA, 310 East Rio Salado Parkway in Tempe. Chairman, Commission, we're really excited about the project. I know there's probably a little bit of confusion here. This project has had quite a legacy. It's been through several different amendments, as you have noted. Not too uncommon with projects of this scale. They do go through phases. There are long development periods, and then because of that, market conditions change and needs change in the area, and therefore amendments get processed. So here we are. Really, I want to thank Jim, done a fantastic job, as always. Your presentations are super thorough. So I'm happy to walk through things again or answer questions. Certainly don't want to repeat things at this point, but if you all have questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Yeah, Member Benedict.
So my question to staff, can you make me feel better about that roadway going
Sure. Yeah, I think.
Promenade Mall?
Yeah, I think part of it is that what we're doing here is establishing what I like to call a bucket of units. We have a bucket of units for residential, and then we have a bucket of non-residential gross floor area. And what that does is that our engineering team has drafted master studies relative to traffic, to sewer, water, and those master studies have to support all of those things that we're planning to potentially implement. So this bucket of units, the plan, the criteria that's been established allows us to create what I'm going to somewhat consider a shovel-ready project, so that, you know, our landowner, our client, Walton, can go out to the marketplace and potentially sell portions of property to future developers. Your question specifically is about truck traffic. We have to consider the types of uses that we have here, and I know this document's very detailed. I'm sure you all read every word of it. Yeah. Twice. So what we're really doing here is the industrial's targeted more for freeway corridor It's not manufacturing industrial, it's not heavy industrial. This is light industrial, this is flex industrial, so you have to think more of, ancillary businesses to support the larger businesses in the area. If we can land a great big user, that'd be fantastic. But to Jim's point, what will happen with that is we do have a TIA in place. Staff has reviewed it. That's how we established our street sections and our circulation. As we get into a more detailed site plan, at that point, we would do a traffic impact statement that would show conformance to that TIA and how the traffic would move through there. I can tell you right now, with working through Promenade, it's a medianized roadway. That's probably not going to happen. So it will be through Mission. There'll be other streets that come through if there is more truck traffic anticipated, if there's a 100-acre industrial user that comes in that's a distribution warehouse or something of that nature. Those are things that would be dealt with at that time with staff. So I can't have a crystal ball. I'm not sure exactly what will happen here, but the process is in place with the city to ensure that we properly address traffic and utilities through every application.
Yep. All right, thank you.
Any other questions? No? All right.
I don't have any well sites, so, or flood walls.
Oh, I bet you do.
You sure there's not there's a well site in there somewhere?
Yeah, there is.
There's one on your property.
It's
Just don't let it get carved out.
Smeared in the color.
Try to hold it tight.
That's right. Don't let it go.
I do understand that. I do know what future clients, I mean, to make sure that we've addressed those access points, so we'll make sure of that.
Yeah, that's it. Other than that, anything else? No? Okay.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Yeah. I think you know where I stand on the whole PAD thing.
Saying.
All right. With that, I will open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? This is a good one, so I think this is where I'll pause for the people coming from home.
Yes.
Well, past 7:30 doesn't matter.
Right. All right, seeing nobody, I'll close the public portion and bring it back to the commission. Everybody's waiting for him to get to the screen, right?
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, I learned my
Because you
lesson.
guys didn't all jump at once. You go-
Chairman, I'll make a motion
Oh, that'd be fantastic. Member Garza.
that we recommend a favorable recommendation to approve the minor amendment to the general plan, DSA 22000025, to place the entirety of the Casa Grande Commons into Phase 1.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second to forward a recommendation to approve.
To approve, yes.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none. Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Garza?
Aye.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Benedict?
Yes.
Chairman Miller?
Yes.
I'll make a motion.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. Member Garza.
That we recommend the Planning Commission forward to City Council a recommendation to approve the major amendment to the Casa Grande Commons PAD DSA 2100277.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Thank you, Member Hubbard. Any discussion? Hearing none. Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Garza?
Aye.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Benedict?
Yes.
Chairman Miller?
Yes. All right. Congrats. Good luck at council. Yeah. You have to put any.
It's a thick report.
Kill 4 trees.
I know, I know. I was like, this is really pretty.
Well, look at all the nice pictures they got there. That's
I
what
was
it's gonna be.
impressed.
2 years
That's what they're building right there? Is that what it is?
That's
Yeah.
what it is, yeah.
You didn't see the pictures?
All right.
Of course we did.
Last but not least, patiently waiting, Mr. Sarnowski is going to present the public hearing to consider forwarding a recommendation to City Council for request of DSA-22-00081 for a planned area development, major amendment to the G Diamond PAD, amending parcels F1 and F2 from single-family residential to multifamily development. This was part of that general plan discussion as well, correct?
Yes.
So we've seen this. I'm sure there'll be lots of questions.
Yeah, so this is the PD major amendment to parcel F of the G Diamond plenary development from single-family development to multifamily, to multifamily. The site, as noted previously, is located south of O'Neill Drive between Peart and Colorado alignment. And again, this is in conjunction with the requests for the major general plan amendment to change the land use from neighborhoods to community corridor. The staff report goes into details regarding all these PAD review criteria. I'll be going over the two highlighted items. Again, with regards to the general plan amendment, with the change to community corridor, it does allow for density up to 25 dwelling units per acre. One of the goals of the general plan is to encourage a variety in neighborhood design and development patterns. And the action step H21 suggests to encourage a range of neighborhood types, densities, and building design within a planned area development and throughout the city. With regards to the city zoning ordinance, it will be subject to the PAD residential design standards for multifamily. And this will include multifamily is limited to 28 feet within adjacent to single-family development within 50 feet. And again, this will be evaluated at the time of major site plan. This is the conceptual site plan, and the major site plan was just submitted this week for the portion to the west highlighted in red. Regarding notifications, city staff and applicant exceeded all the requirements, and I have not received any comments to date on this. So with that, staff recommends that Planning Commission forward to City Council recommendation to approve the G Diamond PAD major amendment request to DSA 22-0081 with the following conditions of record, and including the major general plan amendment pending approval to the general plan amendment to community corridor land use category by City Council at the October 17th City Council hearing. And then our right-of-way conditions. So happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Questions for staff?
No?
Go back to that ingress egress.
I do. Would you like to talk about the roads?
Hey, come on now. There's one on Pert, right?
Oh. So that, again, that will be looked at the major site plan for
Dwayne's on that.
for that.
I know something about this one.
Okay, good.
But I would like to add that I do want to show that with this development, it will allow Colorado to connect to the existing PAD development of G Diamond, and will connect to Cottonwood to Courtson on Colorado.
So Cottonwood will go all the way to Colorado will go from Cottonwood all the way to Courtson.
And then O'Neill would also be developed all the way from Pert to Truckle through the Red Diamond plat that is currently being done, as well as with the development here.
Okay.
So that will help with traffic in the area. I know we do get a lot of that with regards to legacy.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll see.
This is a build-to-rent property too, right? It's 1 stories.
Correct. So the first phase is like a build-to-rent product. The second one will be more of a duplex hybrid, more medium, higher density. And then the third phase, which is going to be done by a different developer, will be more of a higher higher density.
Is that what's in that corner? right
Yes.
there? Oh, okay.
The future development residential?
Yes.
That section? So this is where you're gonna go like high density, medium density, we'll say low density for the high density model, right? That's like, does that make sense? Yeah, following you.
Maybe.
I knew what I said. All right, any other questions for staff? No? Okay. At this time then, applicant and/or their representative. Hey, how's it going? Patiently waiting, the last agenda item. Everybody stuck around to listen to your item.
I enjoyed this presentation tonight. I was happily sitting there in the audience, and it's quite a meeting tonight. Thank you for being part of it. It seems like a nice group here. I'm DJ Stapley. You'll need to know that. I'm with Pew and Lake PLC, 1744 South Val Vista in Mesa, 85204, representing Hancock Communities and the property owner for this application. I have a presentation. We don't really need it this time unless there are any specific questions. There has been a circulation plan submitted. Traffic is oriented in every direction with keeping flows on Pert well site corridor, Pert Road as much as possible. And we have had preliminary meetings. A pre-application was submitted to talk about some of the preliminary aspects of traffic, and it's so far looking good. It's a great plan. Landscaping along all the streets will produce a really nice, continuous look of a landscape feel along the streets. Look forward to answering any questions you may have at this time.
Do we have any questions for the applicant? Nothing? Okay, came all this way, waited all this time, you guys are... How long did you practice that presentation? Do you want to...
I made it up just now.
I had to ask you something, man.
I was going to ask if I could reserve some of my presentation to answer citizen questions from the audience.
Yeah, well,
Those
you know
that
what?
are left.
I had pegged to put about an hour and a half break just to allow the community to show up, so...
We already missed the break time.
I know. Like, Humber's over there, she's mad at me. I thought we were going to get out of here. Cool. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for being patient. Thanks for, bringing forward this project.
It's a pleasure.
Always excited to see infill.
Yeah.
Great.
All right. Thank you. At this time, I will open it up to the public in case anybody from the public would like to speak to this agenda item. And I will officially close the public portion. And bring it back to the commission.
Sure, I'll move.
Oh, we almost had over. She was about to do it. She was about to do it.
No,
I
it's all you,
can't
girl.
commit, no, I can't commit tonight.
I can't commit to this.
I just can't do it.
It's all you, girl. Go for it. All right. I'll move that we recommend to the city council to approve the G Diamond PUD major amendment request DSA 22-00081 with the conditions as presented.
I second it.
Motioned and seconded. Any other discussion? Just note, Dwayne, look into that ingress egress. Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Member Vanderhayden,
Yes.
Member Hubbard,
Yes.
Member Garza,
Aye.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Member Estrada,
Yes.
Vice Chair Benedict,
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. I like that all of our applicants were here this evening. An applicant's attendance is always a good thing.
Was.
I'd like to see more applicants here. Next up, public comment. Open the public comment. Closing public oh, yeah. No.
Look at that stampede.
Look,
huh?
whoa, slow down. Please form an orderly line. Closing the public portion. Reports by the director. Still there, Paul?
So, I'm here, Mr. Chair.
All right.
So, we soon report on city council decisions. Council did approve the variance for the block length in Elaine Farms. And also just to note, although it's not listed on your agenda, the PAD rezoning request for Avalon Heights, which was a build to rent on the southwest corner of Peart and Cottonwood, that was withdrawn by the applicant after the first reading was approved by council. The applicant could not reach agreement on purchase of the property, so they withdrew that zone change. So they withdrew their major site plan and their rezoning for that property. And that's all I have to report.
Okay, then everybody got your monthly reports, so we're good there.
I liked his presentation.
Yeah?
I'd like to make a motion. Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion in 2 seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
I think that guy was